The primary character you play in Crusader Kings 3 is the ruler of a county, a duchy, kingdom, or even a grand empire. But even the greatest ruler is marked by the support of their ever-growing vassals and council. One of the largest parts of Crusader Kings is dealing with the extensive relationship with your courtiers, vassals, and the relationships that can arise amongst them. Whether it's a rebellious faction, a budding friendship, or even a rival's plots of assassination, your vassals will occupy a good time of your management in the game. In this video today, we're going to be talking about a wide range of subjects, including your court and positions within it, making your vassals happy outside of council positions, choosing new vassals for newly conquered lands, how to create stronger or weaker vassals, rivalries, friendships, revoking titles, and lastly, factions. Since this will be a bit of a denser video, please jump to the relevant point in the timeline or the table of contents in the description so that you don't need to sit through every single point if you're looking for specific information. And as always, if you decide to pick the game up after watching this, please feel free to use my link in the description. You'll simply receive a Steam key that you'll go ahead and place directly into Steam while helping to support the channel. Currently, there is a 12% discount, which should have ended a week ago, so I'm not sure how much longer that will be going. But let's get started on how to manage your court, vassals, and counselors in Crusader Kings 3. To start out, we're going to do a quick overview of vassals and go into a little bit of the nuance behind them. So we're going to hang out for the most part in the vassal menu here by pressing F2, jump over to the vassals tab. Now there are 5 different types of vassal: feudal, tribal, clan, theocratic or theocracy, and republic. So right now you can see we are a feudal government, so all of our vassals that are feudal are covered by their feudal contract. The feudal contract will dictate their tax and levy contribution to me, their liege. I can influence this using a number of situations, and the feudal contract itself I think deserves its own video, so we will go into that in detail in its own video. But you also have special contracts that are unlocked through innovations, as well as special rights you can grant to any of your vassals. Now, your contribution level is locked in as a feudal government by this contract. If I were, say, a clan government, then the contribution is linked to their opinion of me from 0 to positive 100. And the clan contribution is further influenced by my crown authority. My higher clan crown authority, then the higher base amount of contribution they have to give me, regardless of their opinion of me. And the other portion of this would, of course, be something like, I don't know, so is there a tribal one around here I can just click on? Yeah, tribal, which would be a fame-based. And the higher my fame, the more contribution of levies and taxes that they will give to me, their liege. Now, the other one that's not marked on this list right here is theocracies, and that is linked to your devotion level up here, your level of devotion. And the last one is republic. And republic will always be the same amount. It will always be 20% taxes and 10% levies, regardless of opinion or anything of the sort. They have a pretty set in stone tax and levy contribution. Now, in addition to this menu, you also get the vassal limit down here. This vassal limit is going to change depending upon your chief title, your main rank. I am the king of Sicily, so you can see right here, king plus 40, my vassal limit is 40. If I were say a duke, then my vassal limit would be 20. Or if I were an emperor, my vassal limit would be 60. And Great Khan has its own as well. I think Great Khan is like, I think it's 80. I can't remember off the top of my head. But Great Khan again has its own. You've got the different types of vassals. You've got your vassal limit, but you probably are wondering, what about your powerful vassals? Because you deal with this a lot, right? You get this little thing right there that says powerful vassal. Well, your powerful vassals are your vassals that have the highest amount of taxes and levies that they contribute to you, as well as realm size. So taking a look here, I am a king, so I have 5 powerful vassals. It's the same thing if you're an emperor. You have 5 powerful vassals. If you're a duke, you have 4. And if you're a count, you have 3. So real quick recap, reversing that order. Counts have 3 powerful vassals, dukes have 4 powerful vassals, and kings and emperors have 5 powerful vassals. Again, linked to the amount of tax and levy contribution. The highest 5 will be the ones that will be your powerful vassals. Now, as you can see, I can scroll here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Denote the little tiny fist here. So the color of that fist dictates whether or not they are on your council and if they want a council position. Duke Jordan, he is on the council. This ruler is a powerful vassal who expects to remain on the council. Well, Duke, don't screw up, and you will. But Duke Hamelin over here, Mark Hamill, does want a powerful, or wants a position on the council because he is a powerful vassal. And as you well know, probably by now, if they are not on the council, they will suffer a -40 to opinion. So it's important to know who these 5 or 4 or 3 powerful vassals are, because you can then sway their opinion one way or another. It's important to note too that a powerful vassal, they have an innate penalty to swaying their opinion. It's a little bit harder to do. So the green and red fist will help you determine just at a quick glance who is on your council from the vassal menu itself. And that 40 opinion can become a pretty big anchor, especially when it comes to succession. Because remember, your succession laws, or any laws for that matter, in this section, are dictated by your powerful vassals. If a powerful vassal, as you can see here, does not have a positive opinion of you, is not terrified by you, or imprisoned by you, or anyone for that matter, then they will not approve of you changing any succession or gender laws. So you can imagine here why keeping your powerful vassals in a positive opinion is so strong for you, even if you're not a clan ruler where opinion-based really matters when it comes to how much they contribute to you. So that's vassals in a nutshell. That's your quick overview of them. But in this section, I want to talk about something that I think is really important, and it has to do with those vassals. It's essentially leased holdings. Now, this depends upon your religion. In this case, we are just Christian Catholicism, and we have the theocratic doctrine, meaning that temple holdings are leased out to their holders, realm priest, who then serves them as a theocratic vassal. So this is important here because it's really important to kind of determine how much money you get from them. You can just simply hover over this, your monthly income, then hover over church holdings, and it shows me right here that temples in my domain, my personal domain, are granting me 3.1 monthly income, but the temples in my entire kingdom are only granting me 0.4, and we're going to go into how this works. Let's bring up our council real quick, and this is going to be our next section anyway. But you can see that my archbishop, he likes me. He's pretty stoked on me. He's got that nice plus 76 opinion. So the way that this works, your realm priest gives you 0.5 taxes and 1 levy per opinion point above 0 up to a maximum of 50. So anything after 50 is a wash. At 50, he will give you 50% of the taxes of his leased temple holdings and 100% of the levies of his leased temple holdings. Now, those leased temple holdings are any of these little bishoprics that he has. So this has 2.37 and 257. So he's going to give me 257 levies, and he's going to give me half of this in taxes, which is, I don't know, 1.18 or whatever it is, it is not that number, just about though. So that's what he's going to give me in taxes. Now, this changes when you have a vassal who also has a bishopric, and this is where it's going to get pretty confusing. So just real quick, hard and fast recap, 0 to 50. At 50, he's going to give me 50% of his taxes and 100% levies because he is my realm priest. Well, the realm priest kind of acts as almost like an insulation between you and other realm priests. So here's a vassal of mine. Mark Hamill, as I've lovingly called him. He himself has a bishopric. And we're going to click on this guy. This guy has a 70 opinion of his liege. So he's going to give his liege 50% of his taxes and 100% of his levies. But he also gives your realm priest 25% of his taxes and 15% of his levies. This is the confusing part. The realm priest will then take 50% of those taxes and 100% of those levies and give them to you. So let me give you a drawn out example of this using actual concrete numbers. So let's assume that this bishopric made 1 gold and 300 levies. Well, then the realm priest would give to me 0.5 gold and 300 levies. But if this is a vassal's bishopric we're talking about, let's say this one in specific, and let's again use the same 1 gold, 300 levies example. So 1 gold is generated here and 300 levies are generated here. Well, 0.25 of that gold goes towards the realm priest, and 45 of those levies goes to the realm priest. The realm priest then takes of the 0.25 gold and 45 levies and gives me, the ruler, 0.125 gold and 45 levies. The vassal in question here, Mark Hamill, then receives the remainder, which is 0.375 gold and 255 levies, the other 50 and 100. So that's a really confusing thing, and I took it very slow and broke it down as much as possible to help out right there. But hopefully that gives you a really good example of how exactly your realm priest works into contributing both your taxes and your levies, and why keeping him happy is so important. But let's go into your court and how to keep these vassals happy without directly giving them court positions. So moving forward, we have your council and the court. So your council is divided amongst 6 individuals, 5 of which, or well, depending on what your situation is, 4 of which are going to be your vassals. 1 will be an appointed archbishop, depending upon your religion, or if you're a religion that doesn't have it appointed, you will select your chaplain, and then your spouse. So before we talk about these individual positions, there are 2 things I want to talk about. First are yearly events. So if I hover over these, you're going to see some possible side effects. And you'll see green text, red text, or one or the other. And that's dependent upon your overall skill. So let's take a look at our steward. His skill is 26. So if you have over 8 skill, you will get positive events. And if you have under 15 skill, you will get negative events. So if you have under 8, you'll get nothing but negative events. And if you have 16 or higher, you'll get nothing but positive events. Let's take our spy master, for example. She's got 13, so it's below the 15 threshold and above the 8. So if I hover over this court action, I can see that they are divided between 2 different colors. Green for the positive events and red for the negative events. Now these will occur every year, and I just wanted to kind of bring these to your attention. So if you go to do, say, increased development, you can see, okay, well, I only have positive events as my possible side effects. Or if I go to convert the faith in the county, nothing but positive green side effects. If this guy, for example, were like 9 learning, then there could be a chance that converting the faith just kind of has a mishap and it sets it back, or drops a faith opinion, so on and so forth. So it is important to note those things. Now, in addition, you also have your landed characters and your unlanded characters. I'm going to click on my marshal right now, and it says, boom, unlanded at your court in Palermo. But I'm going to click on old Count Wilhelm here, and you're going to see that he is landed. Now, why this is important is that every individual in your court, in your family even, can get lifestyle experience. You know, you've got your lifestyle experience right here, right? You choose your lifestyle, you get your perks, all those cool things. If you didn't know this, your children, you can determine their lifestyle at age 6. And then that becomes what they learn as they're going through their coming of age. Once they hit 16, they then become a full-fledged character, right? Well, if they are a landed character, then they will continue to grow in their lifestyle. So take, for example, again, Count William. He is a diplomat. He's got 21 diplomacy, and it is banging. Let's click over here at the lifestyle family focus. And you can see he's got tons of diplomacy perks. So one thing I want to just kind of tell you guys about, or at least caution you towards, when you have the issue of, hey, you know, you've got powerful vassals that want court positions, and maybe they're just not great at what they're doing. So let's take a look at Prince Pandolf, who is my direct heir. Well, he'd be a really great steward, but Duke Jordan is just the king right here, right? 26 steward, that's awesome. It's double Pandolf's. But Pandolf is going to be my future main character. So subbing in Pandolf in this position isn't necessarily a terrible idea. My point in bringing this up is that if you have a powerful vassal that wants a court position and you're on the cusp of, say, like a civil war or some sort of bad situation, putting them in a court situation or a court position isn't bad, because these council positions are going to allow them to grow the specific amount of positions lifestyle experience. Now, that's depending upon your primary title. Duke allows for a 10% bonus, 15% for king, and a 20% for emperor. So Duke Jordan here is just, again, just a powerhouse of steward. He's got both of these trees completely filled out. It's because he's been in this focus for so long. In addition to that, if we take a look over here at this character, our Marshal, every single character gets benefits for being in their position. They get innate bonuses to what that position would lend towards. For example, hovering over prowess here, I can see that the Liege's Marshal gives him +3. Since he is my Marshal, he gets 3. So if you are the vassal of a liege, being in his court, I'm sorry, in his council, will grant you certain benefits, especially if you're, say, the Spy Master and you want to do hostile actions against him. You can get some bonuses. But I wanted to bring that up before actually going into the council, because it's a very huge portion of councils that I don't think enough of us realize, especially when you look at the actual council positions. It can be so easy to just choose, well, I'm going to choose the guy with the highest diplomacy skill here. Oh, it just so happens to be him. Well, he's in place. You can still build a very good counselor if you just keep them in the position over time. They will build the experience and will become good counselors. So outside of that, your spouse is a very important counselor here, because she will give you the aid, or he, depending on your situation, will give you 50% of her skill value rounded down towards whatever dedication you make her. So for example, she is set to patronage right now. Her learning skill is 30. I'm getting 50% of that rounded down to 15, which is great because I'm the head of the Sicilian culture, so I'm getting her natural skill added into mine because my base is 1. My guy is just not smart. But with my wife, I am a little bit smarter. So you can use this as you progress through the different options here, right? And the top one, Assist Ruler, will take 20% of all of her skills and give them to you. Very important. And you can also swap into these when you're in the middle of a dilemma that says, hey, this is a diplomacy challenge, and maybe you have terrible diplomacy, but your wife doesn't. Before you choose your actual action, you can jump into here, select select diplomacy, and boom, you get the benefit of +3 to your skill, in this case, for the diplomacy challenge. A little cool trick you can use. Now, moving down the line here, all of these characters are going to give you benefits to their certain actions depending on what they are, of either 0.5% or 0.5 per skill per month, or 1 or 1% per skill per month. I'm not going to go into the actual breakdown and nitty-gritty of all those, but we're going to go a real quick overview of each one of the council actions, just in case you didn't know what they did and how they're going to help you out. Starting with our Archbishop here, or any chaplain for that matter. Religious relations are going to increase your piety growth per month, as well as your theocratic ruler opinion. You've got the ability to convert faith, which I think is pretty self-explanatory. You also have the ability to fabricate a claim. Now, if you have above a certain skill level, you can actually, rather than getting a claim on a specific county, you get the claim on the entire duchy. So there is a positive to taking a long time to fabricate these claims. Now with your chancellor, you'll be able to influence people's opinion. You'll either be able to use foreign affairs and also grow your prestige per month. Every single character has a way to kind of grow one of your income pools at the top, as well as independent ruler opinion. Now, you also have the benefit of shortening a truce. So if you are, say, trying to conquer more land of someone you've already gone to war with, putting them on foreign affairs has the chance of them actually shortening that truce and make it so you can jump back into war. You also have domestic affairs, pretty self-explanatory. It's going to increase your direct vassal's opinion of you. For your steward, you have increased taxes. You have the ability to increase development and county, but it also reduces the construction time of buildings and holdings. So that's important to know. Kind of something that's, I don't think, as obvious when you select this button. Obviously, you're going to increase the development growth of something, but you're also going to reduce the construction time. You also have promote culture. You're going to convert a culture to the primary culture that you've selected here. So the county changes culture to Sicilian. Now with our Marshal, we've got 3 very important abilities here. The first one allows you to increase your levy size, garrison size, and reinforcement rate. So if you're about to summon up an army, this is a really good one to just kind of bolster it real fast. But then I like to switch almost always passively to train commanders, because this reduces my men-at-arms maintenance. Let's bring up our military tab real quick. I did the right button this time. So it reduces this number right here. Very awesome, very beneficial, especially even when you're at war. Now looking back further at this, you get a nice bonus to your finding a new commander or knight each month, because you're either improving them or finding new ones, because this is going to give us a 6.66% chance to improve or find new commanders and knights, which is a really great way to bolster your knight pool if you have a real strong Marshal. Then, of course, one of the most important ones for your Marshal is increasing county control. This will also stop any kind of county corruption, which is huge. Now, another very pivotal agent or counselor is your Spy Master. You've got Disrupt Schemes, which can help add to your hostile scheme resistance and help you discover other schemes. You've got Support Schemes, which allows her to give you bonuses to hostile schemes. A sway action is not a hostile scheme. So when you queue it up in the little corner here, if it's a dagger, that's a hostile scheme action. Abduction, fabricating a hook, murder, those would all be hostile schemes. So it's important to just kind of know the distinction there. But you also get a hostile scheme success chance increase as well. So if you're going to murder someone, pop into this mode first. Also, you get Find Secrets. And this one's pretty self-explanatory, but 5% per skill level increases this to a total of 65 for her specific one. But this really kind of sums up all of our counselors and their relative actions. I think the most important point about this was at the beginning, because I don't think a lot of people knew how those yearly events really work. Having a counselor at 16 or higher skill is what you ideally want to look for. Now, outside of our counselors, you also have your court, and your court will grow in guests. You've got your courtiers, which are people that are currently residing within your court. This would include your knights, any unlanded counselors, your court physician, if it's not someone that's already in your family, anything like that. Grandsons, children's, stuff like that. So your court is important though, because this allows you to have your knights and vassals marry individuals within your court, and people will visit your court if you have a small court and you're in a position where they can maybe get a county claim taken action on by you. You have the ability to kind of use your guests to the best of your advantage, either recruiting more knights, getting county claims, getting really strong potential for marriages, or really good people that would make really great vassals, which we're going to jump into in a little bit here. But take, for example, this character. She's got humble, which makes her a solid vassal because she's going to have an increased opinion of you and of vassals, and it makes this character a little less likely to plot against you. So now we've gone into court and council. Let's talk about those vassals that you really can't put on your council because you maybe have all the spots filled up by really good candidates, or just in general pleasing your vassals. Vassal opinion is another one of the most important things to constantly be influencing and taking a look at when you're playing Crusader Kings 3, especially if you have a clan government where your levy and tax contribution relies upon it. So let's take a look at Duke Hamlin here, and let's talk about some ways you can influence your vassal opinion without directly just doing some of the more straightforward things. But let's talk about those two real quick. So you can right click on him and send a gift. As of the most recent patch, this has been increased threefold. It used to just be 5 opinion, now it's 15, which is pretty much in line with almost every action I'm gonna show you here, depending on some of the other ones. So this is a really great one if you just have the money and you're not greedy or shy, anything that would cause stress from this. You also have the obvious one to just simply sway them. But you have some more personal actions you can take advantage of depending upon your lifestyle focus and the sexual orientation of yourself, as well as the Duke, if you're male, if he's female, whatever the situation is. You can try and seduce them, and this would cause a situation where they're going to be a little bit better, more in your good graces, as it were. But you also have the ability to offer a ward. Now, Duke Hamlin here, he's got too many wards as is, but let me just use Count William of Foggia here to give you an example of how offering my grandson to Count William to become the direct ward of increases his opinion by 15. because, you know, maybe they're ornery because they're not on the council. These are some ways you can kind of tick the needle forward a little bit. Now, depending upon your lifestyle focus, let me jump over here to lifestyle. If you jump into diplomacy, into family hierarch, you get befriend. And this one is very important. It's one of the only ways to actually become friends with another individual outside of the random events that are created through feasts and so on and so forth. So befriend is pretty huge because if they're your friend, they are going to be pretty amiable towards you. They're not going to join any factions. It's a real good situation overall. They don't need to be on the council if they're your friend. Now, in addition to that, we also have some other ways that we can kind of tick the needle forward here. I can arrange a marriage between, let me say, my grandson and his daughter. Now, this is going to cement things for one important reason. I will be able to bring a alliance to the table here, and he won't have maybe the best opinion of me, but he's going to be absolved from joining any factions against me. So that's a way that you can kind of dodge the fact that he has a low opinion of you. And if you're not trying to currently work on any succession law changes, you can kind of skirt by just having him as a alliance member, because that way he's not going to take any direct action against you. But keep in mind that a lot of times this can cause things to be inbred. So be mindful of that. Now, outside of that, if you're feudal, you have your feudal contract you can take advantage of. Now, depending on who your actual individual is, they might actually have negative opinions because of their feudal contract. Take Count William. He loves me, man. This guy's at 100, but he's at high feudal taxes and levies, giving him a total of a -30 to his opinion. You can see that right there and right there. But jumping back over here to Hamlin, you can see that we can give special rights to this individual or declarations that allow him to be a little bit happier. So, you know, he is not on the council, but he's a good duke. I have no plans to remove him from being a duke. So, title revocation is he now has a protected title. I can't revoke the title from him. That's a pretty huge one. It gives him +5 opinion. Well, you know, he's also a really strong duke. He's got a ton of soldiers. Well, I'm going to give him war declaration. Now he can go and do some wars without my necessary permission. Or, you know, you can use some of the special contracts. So all of these things you can kind of help to knock forward things, or knock forward his opinion a little bit. You can even lower their feudal taxes and levies as another way to kind of boost this up. If I push this into low levy contribution, it's going to account for 5 more. So every positive feudal contract thing you do gives them 5 opinion. I believe every negative one gives a negative, oh, it's -15. I thought it was -10. Yeah. Just making sure here. Yeah. So the special ones will give a negative or +5. The taxes and the levies will give a positive or negative, as it shows right there. Opinion with vassal, -15. Opinion with vassal, +5 and +5. So using your feudal contract is another real great way to do things. Now, depending upon your situation, maybe you're in a real tumultuous one and you just need to knock down your crown authority. Crown authority will also really help you out with your vassal's opinion of you, depending upon where it's at. So if I'm at crown authority 4, absolute, direct vassal opinion is 30, -30. So I can knock this down to 3 if I absolutely need to, and it'll give me 20 more vassal opinion to kind of work with and kind of move around with. You also can do the obvious one of hosting a feast or calling a hunt. Although calling a hunt will give you personal prestige, there can be certain events and situations that will grant opinion to other vassals that might be joining you in that hunt. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is titles when it comes to the opinion of your vassal. Depending upon who or what your vassal is, they can get a lot of bonuses from being a, say, duke with now more lands by granting titles. Let's go ahead and take a look over here at the Duchy of Apulia. We're just going to press grant title, and I'm just going to click anything over here. This is going to give him 40 opinion. So he also leads a faction. That faction is going to lose some discontent, which is great. Or he's part of a faction, I'm sorry. Now, there are other situations here where maybe a vassal's angry at you because you have part of what is de jure part of their land. So take, for example, this individual over here. This is my son. And imagine I granted him the duchy title of Darakian. Well, I own these two territories. They're my personal territories. So my son will say, well, I now have a -30 opinion of you because you have those territories and they are de jure part of my territory. So you can grant the titles of these two territories and it'll greatly increase his opinion of you. So using titles is another great way to influence opinion, and opinion is one of those things that you're always going to have to be moving the needle on little by little depending upon what the vassal situation is. So now we've talked about increasing the vassal opinion of your, well, current vassals. Let's talk about how to appoint new vassals, when you would do that, and what some good traits are. So probably one of the most asked things is how to appoint, or how do you go about even choosing putting a new vassal into place. So right now you can see that I am at 9 of 6 total holdings. This is loaded in right after the patch. If I unpause, the domain levies and taxes will jump up to 100%. So if you see that, it's just because I haven't unpaused yet and this is a brand new patch in place. So if I press grant to, it brings up all my list of people in the realm that I can select to become vassals. Now, what's important to look at in this list is first the culture and the faith of the location you're appointing your vassal to. If it differs from yours, mainly the faith. The culture can differ and it can cause some situations, but the faith is always the most crucial one in my personal opinion. You can really circumvent converting faith by simply choosing a vassal that has that faith. Now let's take a look here. I'm going to type in Shariism. So it looks like I actually have no vassals with this faith. Now, let's take a look over here instead. There's another location that I know has a different faith. So we're going to type that in, and I think I should have one vassal, maybe more. So I do have one vassal. Now, this individual I can then appoint to this region because he matches up both faith and culture-wise. Now, before you do this, though, you need to look at some things. Because the important reason, or the main reason you're doing this, is because you're going to demand conversion from this new vassal. And when he converts, he's going to convert the entire county alongside him. If he has multiple counties, he's only going to convert the chief county that he rules directly. The other one will have to go in time. So let's look at this character's abilities real quick before we do this. And this is important. He's zealous. So because he's zealous, he's not going to want to convert at all. So you have to look at these things before you just go ahead and assign those vassals. Let's just go ahead and jump back over here to this location. Grant 2. And because we unfortunately don't have anyone of this religion, I'm going to just show you all of my vassals and what I typically look for when selecting a vassal. Assume that the religion and the culture matches up. If I can't match up the culture, I at least get the religion so I can then demand the conversion and get it to go flop over. So there are a couple traits you want to look for. Trusting. Honest. You know what? I'll actually do it a little bit more in order. Content. I swear I can spell. Humble. And honest. Now, these are the four probably that I look for the most. There are also ones that are going to help you, like Craven. That's a really good one to select. But trusting and content are two traits that are going to prevent, well, not necessarily prevent, but greatly reduce the chance of individuals being involved in a scheme against you, and they'll have naturally an increased opinion of you. Take, for example, here, opinion of liege plus 15. Content, opinion of liege plus 20. So, and an opinion of other content characters plus 20. So I like to appoint people to vassalage as long as they have one, if not multiple of these traits, probably in this order, I would say. This allows you to kind of, let's just type in content real quick. I think that's probably my favorite one, to be totally honest, not trusting. So my nephew, probably make a pretty good vassal. He's generous, he's content, and he's diligent. But you don't want to put someone into vassalage that is ambitious, especially ambitious, or deceitful. This guy's deceitful, callous, and content. It's kind of weird. It kind of conflicts itself. But although I like content, I would not select this guy because he has deceitful in there and he has callous in there. But you want to look away from things like, again, ambitious, deceitful, vengeful, things that naturally put people in plots against you, because they get pissed off. They're going to leverage that against you and try and take you out. Or even worse, when you go to do a succession, they will try to gobble up more territory and become stronger vassals. So in this situation where I've got 3 cities, I would probably say, okay, well, let's choose, I'll order this by opinion, probably. And let's go ahead and do this guy, because if I'm trying to convert faith, I would want someone who has either a pretty good opinion of me or one I can flip very easily. So we'll give this guy this location. And you know what? We'll give this to same situation. Let's give it to this guy. Now, this last location is important because it's the duchy capital of this duchy. Now, I don't want to just simply give this to anyone. I want to give it to either someone I want as a duke, like my son, or this guy would be pretty good, my nephew. It increases my renown because he's my nephew. He's part of my dynasty, so it'll increase the amount of renown we're getting as a result of having dukes in ducal positions. But most importantly, though, is I'm going to assign this guy as this county. We're going to go ahead and also create a title here for Sardinia. And we'll even just give it to this guy right out the gate. So recent, the Duchy of Sardinia. So what I've done here is I've made someone my vassal. He's already in a very commanding and easy, good position, right? He's a duke. This just increased my renown now because you can see we're gonna have more dukes once I unpause. And most importantly, he's easily controllable because he's a content, diligent individual. He's part of my family. This all really helps you out. But most importantly, I didn't give him multiple counties, so his actual direct power is relatively limited. So by doing this, yes, all these guys are now his vassals, correct, but he himself only has 1 county to directly draw 100% of income and levies from. That's really important to understand when it comes to selecting your vassals, because if you give them, for example, this character is my son. In a future save, I gave him all 4 of these lands because he's my primary heir. So I've purposely set him up in a way that he is deliberately stronger than my other vassals in case there is an issue. So if I go to succession and he comes to power, he will have these direct lands as his and these direct lands as his, already cementing him way above the other vassals on the power scale. That's important because if you just simply assign people to vassalage, they can actually overpower your son, and they can easily, or daughter, depending on what the situation is, and they can easily ramp up an independence scheme in the resistance factions. So each one of these has a different connotation here, but the Liberty faction in this case is held by this guy. So by doing that, by empowering a very strong vassal, you're basically giving him a power base to assault you, other vassals, and increase his own strength, or your son upon or daughter upon succession. So that's how I go about selecting and appointing vassals and what traits I looked for. Let's talk real quick about your friends and rivals, and we will close our video out talking about factions. Friendships and rivalries are pretty interesting. This is going to be a pretty quick section. So we've jumped ahead further in my save here, and you can see those baronies are created, or those duchies are created for my 2 sons. Now, you've got some options here with your friends. You can befriend them. They can come about through random events. They can come about through wars, can create rivals, all sorts of ways that you get rivals and friends. So to take a look here, we've got Prince Guy, my brother, and he is my friend. And as my friend, he gives me 60 relation bonus, or 60 opinion. In addition to that, when he dies, that's going to give me some stress. It's like, oh no, my friend's dead. No. Plus 10 stress. Now, there is an evolution of this. I'm going to hover over here. A friend can become, friends with a deep connection might become best friends. Now, when you are best friends, your character gets plus 120 opinion, and they get plus 10 stress when the character dies, of course. Now, what's important about this is that a friend will never ever join a faction against you. just the same way that on an alliance, they'll never join a faction against you. So keeping people as friends or as terrified individuals through dread is important because it allows people to, it reduces the amount of vassals that could possibly join factions against you. Now, the other side of that coin is the rival system. So for example, this individual, he hates me from all the wars we've been doing, and this is going to give him, let me just click on him, a -60 to his opinion. This evolves into a nemesis. You can only have one nemesis, and this is -120 opinion. And both of these situations, whenever your rival or your nemesis dies, they will get a -35 stress to your character, or it will grant you -35 to your stress. But got to be careful here. These characters, especially this guy, man, he's vengeful. This is a dude who's definitely going to try and do some hostile schemes against me. If you're playing in any of the campaigns over here in northwestern Spain, you're going to deal with a lot of rivals, and those rivals are going to have a lot of hostile schemes against you. So if you do have a rival, it's not a bad idea to keep your spy master on disrupting schemes to make sure nothing's going to happen. If someone asks if you want a rug, that's a hostile scheme. Trust me, because I have put that onto a friend of mine. Deny the rug, because you probably have a rival that's probably trying to kill you through the rug, or so on and so forth. Well, not through the rug, but it's part of the scheme. So understanding friends and rivals is important because it can allow you to influence factions and give you an idea for who might be constantly plotting against you, and you can kind of counter plot against them. But now let's close this video out talking about some factions. Jumping over to another save, we're going to talk about factions. Now, there are 5 different types of factions. The first one here is independence, and you might know this if you've played any of the Holy Roman Empire or anything of the such, but this is a situation where all faction members want to become independent from their liege. You have a claimant faction, in which case a claimant wants to claim the title, usually of the liege. You have a liberty faction, which you can see right here, and this is a situation where they want lower crown authority. A populist faction, which is typically a situation where they want to create an independent realm because they're revolting against either a conflicting culture or a conflicting faith, or sometimes both. In this case right here, it's both, trust me. And then also there is a peasant rabble. So you've got those 5 different ones, and you have to constantly find a way to navigate your way through these factions. So for example, here we have a bunch of vassals that can't join factions, and there's a number of reasons why. So if your character has a strong hook on another one, they can't join a faction. If they are friends, which I believe this guy is, right? Yeah, he's my friend. They cannot join a faction. If they're lovers, which none of these people are, they won't join a faction. And if they're terrified of you, they won't join a faction. I believe, is he terrified of me? No, he's just simply intimidated right now. No one's, this little guy's terrified of me. So he won't join a faction regardless of whatever his situation is. Or if they're a child. In this case, this guy's actually, I think this dude's a ward of mine. Either way, they're children. They can't join factions because they're children. So how do you influence these factions? And that's an important thing I think a lot of people really want to know about. So for one, this situation with your populist factions is typically because of a lot of county control and unrest. And you can influence that by letting it go off as you so wish. Basically let it get to this little point of discontent. They'll offer an ultimatum, which will pretty much be, hey, we want our own independent faction. We want lower crown authority. That's the ultimatum they offer you. You don't offer them one. If you want it just to happen, you say, no, I deny this. They'll start up a individual faction war against you, and you fight them. And with the populists, it's important to note where these locations are, because that is where these factions will pop up across the map. And what you can really do to fight against that is let it go off, and then summon your army in between all of them and just kill them all one at a time. Because once you destroy a populist faction's army, it's gone. It doesn't retreat and recoup. So you can navigate around populist factions by simply doing that, or just simply increase their control. Another great way is to convert the culture in that location. That should sometimes knock down support for the populists. You're going to always deal with this as you increase your lands, especially if you do it too quickly. So don't be too worried about populist or peasant rabbles, especially because if they do go off, a lot of the time, if they haven't gotten a good amount of support, they won't even have enough to siege a city, so you can take them out very quickly. The Liberty factions, though, on the other hand, are very scary. Take a look at this one. I've got 10 members in it, and they are increasingly pissed off at me. And on this list, you can see I've got individuals who actually have positive opinions of me. So it's not necessarily trying to get a positive opinion, because this guy might have been brought into this faction because of a hook. So what your chief concern should be is focusing on the first individuals in these factions, because this is ordered by their military contribution. So number 1 here, faction military power contribution is 24.8 versus this guy is 1.1. You can do some things here. I can go up to this guy, I can right click him, and I can just slap him in prison. It's going to succeed. It's a 100% chance, but this incurs tyranny, which is a 20 opinion penalty. This will eventually degrade over time, so you don't have to really worry about it in the long run if you're doing it once or twice. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 10. Using a hook will absolve you of some of that tyranny, which is always nice, and it always makes sure using the hook will still have the tyranny, but it'll always succeed. That's the important thing. Now, if I were to imprison this guy, it is going to remove him from the Liberty faction. But there is a chance that this doesn't succeed. Let's go here. Prison. 43% chance. And if it doesn't happen, then it's going to go through. This faction is going to revolt against me. Effects on the Duchess. She'll lose opinion. All the Duchess's family loses opinion to me. Imprisoning the Duchess may incite the Liberty faction revolt. If she declines, if there's again the percentage chance where she just says, nah, well, I gain dread, she loses opinion of me, and it's a crime, so I can now rightfully imprison her, and then she will incite the revolt. So if you're trying to get this to kick off, let's see, I think El Cid here, imprison. Yeah, 22%. You press imprison right there, that revolt kicks off, and you just destroy the armies as you see fit. But what you can do is, once you have this guy in prison, let's assume he was in prison right now, I could right click here and revoke his titles. That is going to reduce the amount of strength that he gets from being a large, strong vassal. And it also is going to reduce the amount of contribution immediately by 24.8% on the military power. So factions are really tedious, and you're always going to be kind of dealing with them, especially as you grow quicker and quicker and quicker. But trying to really kind of get a hold on getting proper hooks on people, like the hook I've gotten on this little dude, or befriending individuals like this guy right here, or having lovers or terrified or children, well, they're not children here, can prevent them from being in factions. And the most important thing, like we talked about in the vassal opinion section, is creating alliances with your own vassals if you have the situation to marry them off to people within your family that are maybe not as important, cousins or brothers or sisters, that you can say, okay, well, I'll marry this person off just to try and solidify an alliance with a strong vassal, removing them from the option of joining a faction against you. So hopefully this gave you a really good idea on how to manage your vassals, your council, and your court. I know that there are still some questions you might have, and I know this was a very dense subject. There's so many things to go into, and I probably didn't even cover everything in depth. Like there's the council portion here where you can hover over for your realm priest, like I said earlier, to see the taxes and levies. I didn't talk about that a ton, but there are some things here that we didn't go over, and if you are still confused, please go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. I will answer you as fast as I can, and hopefully another person will see it before I do and give you that answer as well. But you should always really be looking at, you're constantly checking on your vassal's opinion, vassal's opinion, and how you can really influence it. And if you can't influence it enough, how you can prevent them from doing anything serious to you outside of their hostile schemes, which you can hopefully kind of root out through your spy master, assuming they're good enough. But again, hopefully this gives you a little bit better idea on how to manage everything. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below, all that kind of fun action. But have a good one and take care.